Just a quick heads up before the video starts, the entire source code and all the project files will be available on my Patreon in the description down below. Thanks. Alright, so you're here to learn how to design this awesome application right here using WPF. It's a really modern, stunning look to it, and it's something that's gonna hold up in 2021. That being said, let's get right into it. Alright, so we're gonna start off by opening Visual Studio 2019 or whichever version you're using. We're gonna click create a new project, select WPF.NET Framework. You can find it right here as well. You just gotta search for WPF. Once it pops up, make sure that it's C#, Sample, Windows, Desktop, and the .NET Framework. Next, select a name for the project. We're gonna call it Modern UI. Gonna remove the white space in between, and I'm gonna hit create. Now there's a couple of things I want to do before actually starting the project. I want to make sure that I click vertical split right here. It's going to be easier to see. I'm going to make sure that it's zoomed in a little bit because I know that some of you are having a hard time seeing this. Hopefully it's going to be good enough. I'm going to zoom out this window right here by holding Control and scrolling down. And also make sure to subscribe if you want to see more cool stuff like this or C# tutorials in general. It really helps out the channel. That being said, let's go. All right, so first things first, we want to make sure that we don't have this default border up here. That, to me, it doesn't look good and we can make a better one ourselves. So we're gonna go ahead and head over to the window properties. We're gonna change window mode, or window style rather, to none. And then resize mode to no resize. Great. And we're gonna head into the grid and we're gonna create two row definitions. The first row being for the top handlebar and the rest being for the content. So we're gonna do so by typing grid, row definitions, creating two row definitions in here like so. On the first one, we're gonna change the height property to something like 25 and leave the other one as is. Might as well create two columns as well. Let's go ahead and do grid.column definition. There we go, column definition, copy paste, there we go. Now we got the structure done. Now we just gotta fill it with content. So let's go ahead and create the top bar. So we're gonna use a grid for that. So grid, we're gonna make sure to give it a background color. So we're gonna type background, and just to demonstrate, I'm gonna use this color right here. And you can see that it only occupies the first column. We want to make sure that it spans over to the second column. So we'll do grid.column span 2. Might be able to do it with 1. No, 2, because it's not index based. The column span is not index based. Right. We're gonna use the same colors as I've shown you in the thumbnail. So the background color for this grid is gonna be a hex value, so hashtag 0f0f2d. There we go. Now there's a couple of ways we can actually divide this into various grid cells. We're just going to do a quick and handy way of making a column definition inside this grid. So we're going to do grid.column definitions. Again, we're going to add a couple, like 14. There we go. As you can see, each column definition corresponds to each cell in here. Now you can tweak this. You can have 2, you can have 4, you can have 3, as many as you feel you need. All right, so now we can start filling out each cell with some data. We're not gonna data bind anything just yet because this focuses on the design. So let's go ahead and create a text block. There we go. We're gonna give it some properties. Starting with the text, let's call this Bunny Co. We're gonna give it a foreground of white. We're gonna position it in the column 1. This is index based, so it starts at 0. We're gonna set the vertical alignment and the horizontal alignment to center. So vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, center. There we go. Now, as for the font that I used in the project that I've shown you in the beginning of the video was this font right here called Doses. In order to implement this in the project, we gotta click download family. Gonna open this, make sure that this window is still open. Right click your project, add new folder. We're gonna call this fonts. Right click, open folder in File Explorer. Make sure you got the folder open and then just drag this TTF file, the true type font file, in here. Then for me, it doesn't pop up straight away, so I'm just gonna drag it in there as well. There we go. Let's rename this to Doses. Make sure that it's renamed in here as well, which it did. Great. Now, as for the font family, we want to make sure that we type fonts / hashtag Doses. As we can see, it changed straight away. If it doesn't change straight away, it's going to change when you actually run the application, so make sure to do that. I'm going to go ahead and set the font weight to medium. There we go, it's looking a bit better. And then we can copy paste this, but change the actual cell that it's sitting in. So instead of 1, let's set it to 2. Let's change medium to So actually just remove medium and change the foreground to light gray. There, let's see, there we go, light gray. And then you can keep adding as many as you need and changing the text, obviously. So I'm gonna write, I don't know, menu, maybe. Let's add another one, call it, I don't know, website. So website, let's make sure to change the column to 3. There we go, looking nice, looking nice. Now as for the button on the right hand side, we're gonna add it once we finish the button right here. So let's start working on the content. Let's go ahead and change the background on the main window. So background, and the hex color is gonna be 18, 17, 35. There we go. It's looking so much better already. Let's go ahead and collapse this grid right here. Let's start working on the stack panel. There we go. We're going to change the grid.row to be 1. So it's not going to be in the first row right here. It's going to be in the second one. And since it's index based, it's got to be 1. Let's go ahead and create another stack panel inside this one. This is going to be for the image and the text. Set the orientation to horizontal because it's vertical by default. Go ahead and type image. Set the width and the height to be, I don't know, 50 and 50. So height 50. There we go. As you can see, it's looking, you know, we got the outline so far. And we're gonna add a text block as well. Text is gonna be bunny, oh, I can't even spell bunny co. Foreground is gonna be white. Font size is gonna be 20. Font weight is gonna be, I don't know, medium. The vertical alignment is gonna be center. And the font family is gonna be fonts/#doses. There we go. Now, we can't, like, I'm going to add a margin to this text block because otherwise it's going to be way too close, as you can see. We'll do so once we actually add the image. So let's go ahead and create a new folder by right-clicking the project, add new folder. We're going to call this images or assets. Actually, assets, no, images. There we go. Now go ahead and just drag and drop the images that you think that you will be using into this folder. And remember, the entire project with the images and whatnot, the font and whatnot, will be available on my Patreon in the description down below. Right, so once you got those, I'm actually going to drag them into the image folder just to make sure that it updates. We're going to change the source of the image to be images / which one should we use? I used the spaceship in the thumbnail, so we could do shuttle.png. And as you can see, it updates right there. Now, do I want to use the shuttle? Do I want to use the flame perhaps? I mean, the flame looks kind of cool. Let's go with the shuttle. All right, looking great. Now let's go ahead and add some text blocks underneath. So text block. Text is going to be customize. The foreground is going to be, you got it, white. Font size is going to be 25. Font weight is going to be medium. And the font family is going to be fonts/#doses. Oop, doses. There we go. Now we can actually copy paste this 2 more times. There we go. And we can change the text. Customize your experience. There we go. Let's not forget the description text underneath. So we're going to paste it in once more. We're going to change the font size to 12. There we go. Font weight is still going to be medium, same font size. The only thing is we're going to use some lorem text. You can go ahead and head over to loremipsum.io to find some placeholder text. That's what I did, paste it in. And as you can see, it's like 1 line and we don't want that. We actually want to wrap the text, and we do so by changing text wrapping to wrap. There we go, looking better already. Before we start putting margins and whatnot, I'm just gonna make sure that we finish all the controls and then we'll place them correctly. Right, so let's wrap this inside of the stack panel so far. Stack panel, there we go. Let's copy what we've done so far. So the first stack panel and the text blocks. Let's copy that. Let's move it into the stack panel. And right, so under this stack panel, we want to create another stack panel. So stack panel. There we go. We're going to set the orientation to horizontal. There we go. We're going to create a button, which is not going to be self-closed. So it's going to have an opening and a closing tag. We're going to set the content to start, the foreground to white, font size to 14, font weight to medium, and that should be it for the base of the button. Let's go ahead and create the button style. So heading into the button, we want to type button.style. I want to create a style that has the target type of button. So style, target type button. Oop, button. There we go. This is actually really important, so make sure to set the target type correctly. Let's start by setting the font family. So we're gonna do a setter, property, text element, dot font family. The value is gonna be font / #dosha. No, doses is what it's called, doses. There we go. You can self-close that one. Gonna make my window a bit bigger so you can see it better. We're gonna set another setter with the property of background. The value is gonna be another hex color, so FE6584. Self-close. We're gonna set the cursor, so setter, property, cursor is gonna be a hand, because that makes more sense. And if we start the application right now by clicking F5 and we hover over it, we can see that it has that, like when you hover over it, it doesn't look good at all. So let's change that. Let's create some style triggers. So style.triggers. I'm gonna create a new trigger, which isn't gonna be self-closed. We're gonna create a setter in here. The property is gonna be background, and the value is gonna be this, essentially this color, but a darker color. Let's just self-close that real quick and set it to FF4C70. There we go. You can tweak these around if you want to. It's totally up to you. Now for the trigger, we actually need to set a property as well. So the property is going to be is mouse over, value true. So if the mouse is over, we want to apply this setter right here. Now this isn't going to change anything yet because we haven't changed the actual control template. That's what we're going to do right now. So underneath the button style, let's just clean this up a little bit. There we go. Underneath the button style, we want to create button.template, create a new control template. Now inside the control template, we want to create a border, which isn't going to be self-closed. So there we go. I'm going to set the width to 100, the height to be 25, corner radius of, not border thickness, corner radius of 12, which is going to round out the button. And the background is actually going to be bound. So we're going to do some template binding. Template binding background. Background. And as you can see, it actually binds to the background. Now, if you've noticed, we're not seeing the text anymore. That's because we don't have a content presenter. So let's do a content presenter. This can actually be self-closed. Let's set a vertical alignment to center and the horizontal alignment to center as well. And the control template, don't forget to set the target type to button. There we go. All right, so that's it for the button. Now we can start tweaking, we can recreate this button. We can start tweaking it with like different colors and whatnot. Let's just start it real quick and check the hover. As you can see, you have a hand mouse cursor and it also turns darker. Now let's start repositioning things and create another button. So creating another button is going to be super easy. You just copy paste the first button. Let's actually clean this up a bit. There we go. And we're just going to change a few values. First off, we want to change this to, I don't know, register. And remember, you can set the foreground color inside the setter as well if you want to do that. I usually split my styles into different files to make it more organized and whatnot. Let's change the button color to hashtag because it's a hex value. 3938, so 3938 5D. Yeah, something like that. That looks good. And the hover over color to something a bit darker like hashtag 3A3952. Let's run this real quick and check it out. That looks good. A bit too dark maybe, but we can tweak that later. Let's head up to the button over it and set a margin to the right. So margin 00010. Oops, that was the wrong one. It should be 00100. There we go. Looking better. Now let's actually add a margin to this stack panel as well. So margin 01500. There we go, giving it some space. Same goes for this text block right here, the lorem text block. So margin 01000. Looking good so far. And let's make sure to give this stack panel up here margin as well. Let's do something like 00020. Right, that's looking good so far. Now we just gotta position it in the middle as well. Right, so let's change the vertical alignment on the first stack panel. Vertical alignment to center, which is the stack panel holding all the other stack panels. It's a lot of stack panels. Let's set a margin of 60 perhaps. Right, that's looking pretty good. Yeah. That looks really good. Let's just add a margin to this text right here and make sure that this image renders a bit better because now it's a bit pixelated on the edges and we don't want that. So let's start by clicking the text right here. We're gonna set a margin like 10, 0, 0, 0. And for the image, let's set render options dot bitmap scaling mode to fant. There we go. That's gonna make it look so much better. And look at that. It's looking so good already. Now let's go ahead and resize the main window as well to make it look a bit better. So instead of height and width of 450 and 800, we're gonna change it to 500 and 900. There we go. Now it's looking way better. Look at that. Right, now that we have the button, we can actually put it up here as well on the top right. So we can actually just copy the button, being the first button that we made. As for the button, let's head over to where we have the text blocks, the bunny code, the menu, and the website. So the ones up here. And right underneath, we're gonna put the button. We can see that there's a couple of things wrong. First of all, it's in the first slot, which it should not be. And it's also getting cut off, which is, you know, another bad thing. So let's change it to one of these slots right here. Put it in the grid.column 12. Right, there we go. Let's indent that. There we go. And let's make sure to give it a column span of 2. There we go. Now it actually fits, but it's a bit too big for my taste. So let's resize it a bit. Change the font size to 10. The width and the height is going to be 75, 15. And the corner radius, let's try 8. 8's actually looking really nice. What about 9? No. 7? 6? No, it's either 7 or 8. Let's go with 8, right? Starting the application just to see what it looks like. I'm happy with this so far. Now we're just gonna add the lines going across, and then we're essentially done. All right, so this is gonna be arguably the hardest part, which, to be honest, is not even hard. It's just figuring out the right margins. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Right, so underneath the stack panel, let's go ahead and create a grid. We're gonna change the grid column to 1, and the row span to 2. We're gonna add a grid.render transform, and we're gonna chuck in a rotate transform with an angle of 45. Yeah, let's not do it yet. Let's just make sure that we get all the controls that we want in and then rotate it, because it's gonna be easier that way. So underneath the grid.render transform, let's create a stack panel. The orientation is going to be horizontal, and this is going to contain 2 stack panels. Let's create the first border, which is going to represent the stick, if you will. The width is going to be 700. Height is going to be 35. Background is going to be hashtag 3D DDC2. We're going to put a margin of 150, 0, 0, 0, and a corner radius of 20 to round it out. Nice. Let's copy paste this, and there we go. Change it. Color is going to be FC6586. The margin is going to be slightly different. It's going to be 0, 15, 0, 0. The last one's going to have a color of 38, 36, 60. And the margin is going to be 75, 15, 0, 0. Right. We can actually copy paste this stack panel and replace the first one. There we go. We can't really see the other one because it's out of bounds. Right, so let's change the rotate transform angle to 50. The grid is gonna have a margin. Let's set it to 160, negative 365, about 610, actually negative 610, and 85. Right, so far so good. Right, final stretch. The stack panel, the first one inside the grid, we're gonna give it a margin of negative 350, 250, negative 255, negative 250. There we go. So far so good. There's a slight issue. It's that this is overlapping the border. So let's make sure to give this grid let's give it the Z index of -1. Z index -1. Yeah, there we go. And if we start this right now, it's gonna look, wow. That's such a game changer right there. And that's essentially it. You can tweak these around, you can make them rotate a bit more, you can like stack them a different way, you can make them thicker, longer, etc, etc. But to me, this is just perfect. Let's go ahead and make this border or this actual window movable. Now, since we're not implementing any MVVM in this design episode, we're just gonna go ahead and do an event handler straight off the bat. So let's select the border, the grid. Let's do mouse down, there we go, new event handler. Let's head back into the code behind, there we go, which you can find if you click your main window.saml and then the CS file underneath. Right, so in the event handler, we want to do if e.left button, e refers to the event argument, is equal to or equal to mouse button state pressed. If so, we're just going to call a function that's already available for us, drag move. And that's literally how easy it is. Starting the project, we can now move the window. And it's really that easy. Now, the source code and the entire project, all the files and whatnot, will be available on my Patreon, which you can find in the description down below. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like to help out the channel and to see more awesome content like this. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.